What I want is acceptance and allowance to just be who I am. And I can never expect them to be able to provide those things to me if I don't provide them to myself, right? If I want my husband to fully accept me for who I am, then I need to do that first. If I want my husband to love all of me, then I need to do that first. If I want people to know how to love me, then I need to let them watch me love me too, right? Every relationship that you have is being trained on how to respond to you by how you behave toward yourself.
Welcome to the Marriage and Motherhood podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Perda. As a marriage coach who's married with 3 kids, I know how much parenthood could change a marriage. If flirting, laughing, and having fun together feels like a thing of the past, then I'm here to teach you that marriage doesn't have to feel so hard with your parents, and your marriage can thrive even when you're in the season of raising kids. Whether you're in a good place in your marriage and you just want to continue growing together, or you're wondering if you even like your spouse anymore, this podcast has something for you. Join me here each week as we dive into what it takes to help your marriage grow, and maybe even do a 180. You'll learn ways to handle conflict better, bring that spark back into your relationship, as well as learn how to improve other areas of your life from my lovely guest experts. Are you ready for the next stage of your life in marriage? Let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Marriage and Motherhood podcast. So, seeing how this podcast is for moms, although shout out to the men that listen, I thought that it's been a while since we've talked about us as women in these roles and what can so often happen when we make that transition from woman to wife to mom. And then it's like, well, who are we? And we then start to experience a lot of challenges, whether it's challenges in our marriage, challenges with what we are faced with when we start parenting, right? We experience a lot of triggers in both of these roles. And so I thought, who better to bring here than Evelyn LaVasseur to talk about how important our relationships are, period. But the most important relationship that we have, which you've heard me say this time and time again, which is the one that we have with ourselves. That's what dictates all of our other relationships and the quality and success and fulfillment that we get out of them. And so before we dive in, welcome, Evelyn. I'm so happy to have met you and to welcome you onto the show. Can you please share with those who are new to you where you live, how old your kids are, and what made you decide to become an identity coach?
I am Evelyn and I live in Connecticut and I have 2 daughters, one 16 and one 13. We're entering new phases of mothering, which bring on new phases of worrying. But as far as coaching, I was a middle school teacher for 11 years. And during the second half of that time, I also did nutrition coaching and personal training part-time. And I really loved feeling like I was helping women gain confidence, gain this comfort in their bodies, and their selves. But what I didn't realize at that time was I was actually making them completely dependent on me because all the answers that they needed for themselves came from me. And I was completely neglecting the root cause of their struggles. I was neglecting that inner work, and I could only recognize that for them because I recognized it for myself. Even though I was a nutrition coach and personal trainer, I thought that I was living healthy, but really I was perpetuating that cycle of binging and restricting and just repeating over and over and over again those issues. And I started to have to learn that the reason that I focused so much on things like meal plans and exercise plans and answers outside of myself was because I didn't trust me, first of all. And second of all, for me, becoming a mom was not easy. I had 2 losses before I had my first daughter. The first one was very early, which my doctors told me 25% of women suffer through miscarriage early on. My second pregnancy, I made it almost halfway through my pregnancy, and I lost that baby as well. And I remember at that time, like, not just praying, I mean begging God, like, let me do this. Help me do this. I know I'm supposed to be someone's mom. And I remember when I had my first daughter, even that pregnancy, I don't know that I fully allowed myself to enjoy the beauty of the pregnancy because it was so uh, just covered in fear. But my journey to becoming an identity coach was really about recognizing that I was raising my daughters to be very self loving, self accepting. I was doing it from a place of feeling insecure. I was doing it from a place of, if I do for everyone else, maybe one day they'll see me and love me the way that I want to be loved. And maybe if they can, then I can too. So I had to learn for myself first that in order to raise daughters who really see themselves and really love themselves and really have this foundation of knowing how valuable and worthy they are simply because they exist, then I couldn't just wish it for them. I had to live it.
Yeah.
And
I
that's where it all
mean,
changed.
yeah, you got to be the example, right? Yeah. Wow.
Exactly.
I think having a daughter is so different than having sons, especially because we are women, right? They say our important relationships are mirrors for ourselves, right? Our marriage, that's why we're so deeply triggered during conflict at times. Our kids are especially triggering because they bring up past experiences from our childhood and how we were raised, and we're faced with questions like, oh, well, this is what I naturally want to do in this situation, but is this what I want to do as my own version of being a parent and being a mom? And I have to say that having a daughter has been really transformational for me. And it sounds like for you too, because we're like, oh, shoot, now we have to really take a look at how we do things, what we're exposing them to, what's their reality. And really almost like force us to become aligned more.
Mhm. Mhm. So much. And I think, it also makes you take a deep, hard look at the things that you tried to ignore for a long time. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why do I feel insecure in my body? Why do I hesitate before I speak? Why do I look for other people to give me signals that they accept me? Why do I silence myself when I know I have something to say? Like all those things that we kind of, I guess, can distract ourselves from and just move on and keep ourselves busy and take on the role of the doer, right? The fixer, fixing all the things around us so we don't have to fix what's happening in us. I think having a daughter really makes you sit with that stuff and say, if I truly want what's best for her, then I need to dig into all the things that kept me from being me.
Yeah. And that's a tough road to go down when you are new to that,
Yeah.
right? Even if you're not new to it, it can be tough because it could touch on different areas that maybe you weren't ready in the past to face. Um, so let's dig into what is relationship with self, first of all. For those who have not, I'm going to call this a luxury, okay? Those who have not had the luxury of even delving into this deep of a topic of having a relationship with self. Like a lot of people think about relationships with someone else, right? Like my relationship with my husband, my relationship with my parents, with my kids, with my friends. And I feel like those come up. That's like the top of mind idea when you think of relationship. It's in addition to someone else. But I feel like a lot of people don't consider that they also have a relationship with themselves.
Mhm.
So, can you break down what that means for those who aren't aware of that or haven't even had that kind of conversation with someone else where they're like, I didn't even know that that was a thing?
Mhm.
What do you mean by that? How do you have a relationship with yourself?
Mhm. It's so hard because We all have a relationship with ourselves, whether we recognize that it's something positive or negative, or if we are the reason that we shut ourselves down, or we are the ones that self-sabotage in certain situations, right? It is all rooted in how we feel about ourselves. And how we feel about ourselves is based on that relationship. And I think the reason it's so difficult to even acknowledge when you're not doing the work is because we were essentially trained to disconnect from ourselves very early. You know, as little girls, I mean, if you can picture, the toys that you were given were babies and little kitchen sets. And I had the little pretend ironing board. And everything that you learned as a child was that your value was rooted in how you cared for other people. It was in just providing for every aspect of what other people need, which even when you saw your mom exhausted or overwhelmed, if she let you see herself that way, right? If you got to see her in her lowest moments, she still found a way to push through it all, to take care of you, to take care of the house, to take care of your dad if you all live together. But since we were little, we have been trained to go, 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 and do, 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 and fix, 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 so much that we don't even know what is important to us. We don't even know what we like, what we love. We sometimes feel guilty that we don't love ourselves, but we were never even really taught to like ourselves. We didn't even know what that meant. Like, if everything about your existence is about taking care of other people and then also looking the part, taking care of your body, you know, with the way culture and society judge and compare women constantly. There's this need to constantly fix yourself and change your hair and fix your body and shrink, right? Everything that we've learned has taken us away from ourselves, that we get to a point where it's like, if I don't say I'm a mom and a wife and whatever my job title is, like, who am I without all that? Who am I? So I think the relationship with self really is about peeling back all the roles, all the labels, all the things that you are for everybody else, and just kind of digging into, what do I even like? What makes me feel joy? Like, do I let myself dream? And making this connection to, I really like this person. Like, I really like to sit in my own thoughts and enjoy my own company. And I want to date myself. I want to take myself out for coffee and just read a book in the quiet. I want to spend time with me. I want to get to know me, right? I think it's really difficult for us to put down those roles even temporarily and just sit with ourselves, because we've been trained to not connect with ourselves. So I think that's where that relationship with self starts, is saying, who am I beyond these roles? And if I'm not sure, let me get curious.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on with how we were raised as females, is that everything that we are expected of is in service to other people, whether it's to make someone comfortable or community comfortable or doing something for someone. So it's like we equated our productivity, performance to how good of a person we were, right? And how much we sacrifice and compromise, that's how good of a person we are. And I think now we are turning over a new leaf from that generation of, I am a selfless mom, and put that on my gravestone because I will wear that as a badge of honor, to, damn, that wasn't what I want. That left you burnt out and exploding at us because you were frustrated and on edge. And I don't want to be that kind of mom. I want to be a present mom. And now we're realizing, oh, being a present mom is hard work, because that means setting boundaries for ourselves. That means understanding our limits and speaking up for ourselves. All things that we were not modeled.
Yeah.
So we are essentially, and I know this is like a buzzword, but we're reparenting ourselves. We're exploring what this idea of what's it mean to be present and what's required of me and what do I need to be present. But I also don't know how to do that. So let me fumble my way through this and kind of like trial and error to see what works. And that's 100% been my journey as a mom. Like, for my oldest, who is 16 in January, wasn't the best version of me, but also was the best version of me at the time, right? Because hindsight's 2020. And looking back, I'm like, oh gosh, I am so sorry, Aiden. But I was doing my best. I didn't know any better. I didn't have the capacity or resilience that I have now. And now with my third child, she's 5.5 now. And I'm like, wow, I'm such a different mom to her than I was to my oldest, than I was to my middle. And now they get this like different version of me. Like all three of them get this different version of me now. But it's like, that took a lot of, I'm going to like quote, but like failures and lessons and almost like recalibrating. Okay, wait, that didn't work. What do I want to try this time? And that requires us to face ourselves, which is not something a lot of people are willing to do or even know how to do because of the shame spiral.
Yeah. I think it's easy to fall into shame too. And guilt, like that feeling of guilt. How many moms do you know will feel guilty for like going out to coffee with a friend, if they even allow them to, right? How many moms do you know go out with the intention of, I don't know, getting themselves some new jeans and a blouse, and they convince themselves, I can't spend this money on myself, and then come home with all new things for the kids, right? Like, to even put any amount of effort into yourself feels foreign, and it feels difficult to like comprehend that I matter. Like, I matter, and I have to make myself matter. But something that you said too, I think the journey is so difficult, but I think sometimes we're in our head so much about it. Like, it's so, I make these mistakes, I'm failing, but really, I think the fact that you can make these mistakes and then have the conversation with your children is literally the actual lesson that they need. Like, you were trying to teach a lesson, maybe you snapped, maybe you didn't respond well, maybe you didn't handle yourself well. It's the conversation after that actually shapes the lesson that they're going to learn. I talk to my daughters very, very vulnerably and very openly, but I also let them know, like with my oldest, I will say to her, I hear parents say all the time, like, I was 16, you're not going to pull these things over me. And I don't look at it that way. I was 16, obviously, but I never parented a 16-year-old before. So everything that you go through for the first time, I'm also going through for the first time. So the same way I give you grace and the same way I allow you to make mistakes without being like shamed and judged, I need you to do that for me too. And I apologize when I make mistakes, and I apologize if I snap and I am not patient, but I also need you to communicate with me when I do something. If I hurt your feelings, if I say something that didn't make you feel good, if I ignored you when you were trying to talk to me, if I was prioritizing, I don't know, taking care of the house over letting all the stuff go and just sitting and talking with you, tell me. I cannot fix what I don't know about. I can't figure it out all by myself. And I think that also teaches them the power of communicating clearly, the power of relying on other people, the power of giving people and themselves grace and compassion, and just the power of knowing that we're not in this life alone, on making mistakes, and we all can fess up to them, admit I was wrong, I am committed to doing better, help me get there.
Yeah. And I love that example you shared, because we are often seeing that to our kids. Like, look, I'm new to this. I'm also figuring this out. And I think that a level of vulnerability is so essential to you developing, building, strengthening your relationship with yourself. So for me, I grew up from a very critical childhood. And that was very typical back then, right? Like, they want the best for you. They don't want you to, screw up or whatever. They want you to have a good life. And their approach was common back then. And we're now learning that is not very effective, right? I mean, it can be, but it has its consequences, like everything does. And I think now as parents, we're deeply trying to figure out, okay, how can I be your guide, not criticize you, but teach you accountability and teach you to reflect and all of that. And now we're at this like point where it's like the more we are in a positive relationship with someone, or even it doesn't even have to be positive 100% of the time because that's not realistic, but that can aid in our deepening of our relationship with ourself, right? So let's talk about the quote unquote negative sides that can come out of our relationship with ourself, right? For me, it was a lot of being self-critical, allowing guilt to just consume me. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just did that. I just yelled at my son, or just yelled at my daughter, or I lost my shit. I let their actions get to me, or, whatever. What's the first step that someone can take to use that as an opportunity to instead improve their relationship with themselves? Because I think this is a very concrete example that a lot of people can relate to. And I want to give them choice, right? Because the natural step, the most well-practiced, I should say, step is to just let yourself shit all over yourself. Just like be such a hater. What is something that someone who's deeply wanting to improve their relationship with themselves, what's something they can do to approach that differently?
I mean, I feel like the very first thing is recognizing that shame is not a motivator. Making yourself feel horrible and, like you said, like literally just shitting all over yourself, this doesn't make you want to do better. It makes you say, I am the problem. I need to be fixed. I am damaged. I am broken. I just can't get this right. That leaves very little room for joy, right? Even today, when I make mistakes, obviously, I still feel a little bit of guilt, but it doesn't last long, because the very first thing that I do is I get curious. I really do get curious. I look at every behavior that I have and every choice that I make as a result of everything that's going on around me. So I ask myself, if I snapped on the kids, right? Because that happens. Sometimes my fuse is a little bit shorter. And I ask myself, like, what's going on? Did I not sleep well last night? Am I feeling stressed about something that's happening in my marriage? Am I worried about something that's going on with them at school? Am I overstimulated? Am I neglecting myself? Am I not taking time for me? Am I not, like, for me, for example, I wake up every morning, I go for a walk first. I come back and I journal or read while I drink my coffee. And if I'm in a rush and I have to skip out on one of those things, I feel it in my energy for the day, right?
It's like our vitamins.
Yes.
Those are our vitamins.
100%. So I feel like the very first thing, and I really think it's something that you could just take with you forever, is to always approach yourself with curiosity instead of criticism. Why did this happen? Okay, I see it. Now I can course correct.
Yes. I think that this is a wonderful example for all you ladies to follow, because yeah, you may not be able to control the negative self-talk that you have. Really, it's one of your parents or like one of your caretakers, okay? And if you didn't know that, I want you to consider that the next time you hear that voice like putting you down. I want you to think, like, who is that has carried on through my life that I'm allowing to take up all this space in my head? And I also want to offer you an invitation to add another voice in your head, right? It's almost like the angel and the devil on your shoulders. Like, okay, you got your airtime. Now let's give some airtime to the other side. What if it was your best friend that was telling you all of this was happening? Would you continue to like shit all over her? Like, yeah, how could you have done that? You're a terrible person. No, you'd be like, you've got so much going on right now. When was the last time you did something for yourself? Are you burned out? Maybe you should have the kids help out more. Maybe you should hire someone to do something. Maybe you can lower your standards for yourself. Like,
You don't need to be doing all of that. They're going to be okay, you know? And curiosity is your foothold into opening that door to letting compassion into your life. Because that's truly what we need to give ourselves more of, right? Like, yeah, feel those feelings of shame and guilt, but also allow feelings of compassion. And when you do that, that's what allows you to have clarity around the situation. And when we have clarity, we can have hope. And when we have hope, we start to look at, well, what can I do about this? What are some choices that I can make that can lead me to a different outcome? And you kind of just like trial and error, right? You don't want to stay stuck on the floor, like boo-hooing. Feel your feelings and then be like, okay, what else? What else is there for me?
I just read an interesting statistic a couple weeks ago, and it resonated so much with that feeling. For a long time, I didn't feel the feelings. I intellectualized them, right? I could talk myself through them. I could tell myself why I felt that way, but to actually let it sit in my body, I rejected that. I rejected that so much. But the statistic I read was, or the fact that I read was that feelings at a cellular level stay in your body for 90 seconds. That's it.
Yep.
Feelings stay there for 90 seconds. The rest of the pain and the shame and the guilt that we feel is attached to our thoughts around it. Yes, the power we give to it in the story, the thing we keep repeating and ruminating on. Where if we had just felt the feeling for those 90 seconds and then offered ourselves a little compassion afterward, it is a matter of feeling terrible for an entire day and guilting and shaming yourself and not being able to handle yourself differently next time. The difference is then you feel the feeling, you offer yourself some compassion, you get a little bit curious, and then you make a plan.
Yeah. I mean, I know it sounds like we're oversimplifying it, and it does take practice to do this, but that's where awareness is really helpful, right? If you can start to identify, well, what am I feeling? Where are these feelings coming from? What led to this? Okay, got it. Let yourself feel it. Sit with it. And I know I'm saying sit with it as if it's really easy to do. And it can be when you practice it. If you haven't practiced it, the reason why you're experiencing resistance is likely because you were never allowed to express your emotions beyond what was socially acceptable, like joy, happiness, all that, by your caretakers and by the people that you surrounded yourself with growing up. Because I know I certainly wasn't allowed to be frustrated or upset. Like when I was crying, I'd be told to stop crying because I'm embarrassing them in public, or stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. And that's because they were uncomfortable with my discomfort. So therefore, I learned that having those feelings are not okay. And so we come to learn as we grow up that, hey, anger is not an acceptable emotion. And we start to associate it with negative connotations. And so we push it away, we shove it down, we don't allow ourselves to feel that. That's why feeling happy is so easy for us to express, because we have more experience with expressing it. But with anger, frustration, resentment, those are the things my clients are coming to me about. Like, I can't deal with this, and I'm becoming this version of myself that I don't like. And that's where they continue to argue over and over again, and they can't get out of it. It's because they haven't learned to manage, navigate all of these feelings and understand them. And I don't want to like turn this into an episode about emotions, but at the basis of it, your emotions are all neutral.
Yeah.
It's the narrative that we give each of those emotions that give it the meaning, right? And so I want you to take that away from this so that you know that, hey, what if anger is just as okay as happiness?
Yeah.
It's the behaviors that you're not liking. So what if you just changed behavior, but still allow it to be felt, right? So I don't even remember where I was going with that, but I want to dive back into a different side of relationship with self, right? As we nurture our relationship with self, we can start to become more comfortable with the uncomfortable, with the emotions, right? and build resilience to allowing ourselves to feel even the ones that we are more foreign to, like the quote unquote negative emotions, right? But what's the flip side? What's the benefit of developing a relationship with ourselves? So you mentioned going on dates, right? I had thrown out setting boundaries, speaking up for ourselves, truly giving ourselves a voice, and even like asking ourselves, what do I want to do right now? Not just, oh, well, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to eat, I'll just go with the flow. I'm a needless woman, right? What does the flip side look like for people?
I think the flip side, everything that you just stated is an example of taking care of you. Like to be radically honest about what it is you even enjoy, what it is you even want. Like that thought of being low maintenance is such a lesson that we were taught. Like it's better to be low maintenance. You don't want to be seen as somebody who's needy or demanding. And it's like, why would I not want to be taken care of? Why is that a bad thing? Why would I not want to tell the person, if I'm talking about in my relationship with my husband, why would I not want him to know what makes me feel good? Why would I want to spend every day of my life basically in betrayal of what I actually desire? So I think everything that you talked about is about truly caring for ourselves at a soul level. Like what I feel is important. What I want is important. What makes me smile is important. What brings me joy is important. I am important. And I am not high maintenance. I am not needy. I am not naggy. I am simply speaking to what makes me feel good. And I think something else is really important to recognize is that we are not our feelings, right? I feel like so many people take on that I am happy, I am angry, I am sad, I am depressed. And it's like you start to give your feelings power over your identity, meaning you're not in control anymore of who you are or even who you want to be. You're just like a victim of circumstance in a sense, where really, if we recognize, like you said, all feelings are neutral, I also want to add to that, that all feelings are temporary. And that could be
Yes.
anger, excitement, joy, pleasure, frustration, all of them come and go. But the common denominator is that we still stand. I know for me, it really helps me to see there's Evelyn on one side, and then there's what she's feeling on the other side. And those feelings don't define me. I define me, and I let myself feel those things. So it's a matter of recognizing how much just value and worthiness I carry innately, that I'm allowed to feel all of those things and just see myself as having a very human experience. There's no
Yes.
judgment needed.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That's it right there, guys. That's it right there. I mean, that really is what it is. It's like, if we know we're human, right? Why are we pinning ourselves up against perfection? And even the most perfect human, and I mean like the Buddhist monks that live in the mountains, okay? We all experience emotions. That is the beauty and the struggle of being a human being. That's where we add color to our lives. Can you imagine having no emotions at all? That'd be very boring.
Yeah. And lonely.
Right? We need that contrast. That's how we learn to value things. That's how we learn to appreciate and have gratitude towards things. If everything in life was good or if everything in life was bad, that would not be like, I know it's, people are like, I would love a life with everything good. But if everything was good, it would lose its meaning because it's just all the same. It's all one note.
Yeah.
Right? We need the light and we need the dark.
Yeah.
There is no light without the dark, right? Both need to coexist. And as you develop your relationship with yourself, that's going to trickle down because we'll operate differently. We're going to interact with people differently. I believe we create a ripple effect with our actions, right? And who's going to experience the ripple effect? Our people will. Our spouse, our kids, our neighbors, our friends, our clients, your coworkers, your parents, everybody you interact with on a regular basis. And even the stranger at Starbucks Whether you open the door for them or you're just like so in your head, you're like, I don't even notice someone's behind me and I'm not going to leave the door open to let them in too, right? So let's talk about how our relationships get to change as a result of us being willing to date ourselves and being willing to sit with our feelings and really nurturing our relationship with ourselves and reparenting ourselves and treating us how we wish we were treated when we were children.
I feel like one of the greatest fears I had when I found myself growing mentally and emotionally, like exponentially growing and elevating, I was terrified that I was going to be sending the message to my husband that I didn't think he was enough. I didn't want him to hear my desires in that way. But I also had to trust that he is a grounded individual that trusts me as well. So, it is my job to speak my truth, and it is my job to trust that he can handle it and know that I cannot control whatever comes out of his mouth next. I cannot control the way he receives it. I just can control the way that I put it out there. But the most beautiful things that I see happening in my relationships with others stem from my relationship with myself, in that I will not sit in a room now and think, oh, I have to watch what I say. I don't want Michelle to think I'm stupid. Or I have to put on specific outfits because I don't want people to think that I don't care about myself. Just, all the things that you can get in your head about, constantly thinking about what other people are thinking of you, when really you're the one who gives the majority of your thoughts to yourself. People aren't really focused on things the way that you are. But I think that the thing that grounds me the most is knowing that what I want from other people is connection. What I want from other people is depth in conversation. What I want from them is acceptance and allowance to just be who I am. And I can never expect them to be able to provide those things to me if I don't provide them to myself, right? If I want my husband to fully accept me for who I am, then I need to do that first. If I want my husband to love all of me, then I need to do that first. If I want people to know how to love me, then I need to let them watch me love me too, right? Every relationship that you have is being trained on how to respond to you by how you behave toward yourself.
Yes, yes. What's that phrase? You teach other people how to treat you.
Yeah.
And you've probably heard this phrase before, and that stems from your relationship with yourself. If you have a poor relationship with yourself, you're going to let people walk all over you. You're not going to have any opinions that you share. You're going to stuff those down because you don't want to inconvenience people, or you don't want to ruffle any feathers. But when you have a really great relationship with yourself and you really take on that mentality of, I'd rather disappoint other people than myself, which I hope that you strive to do. Not that we ever want to disappoint anyone, obviously, but if you had to, I would hope you would choose to disappoint other people rather than yourself. I don't want you to self-abandon in the name of other people, okay? I know there's this idea that we grew up with in movies that was romanticized, like, oh, would you die for someone that you love? Would you die for your kids? It's like, what if you just chose to live for them, right? That's what we're trying to shift into. Can you be your most vibrant self? And I don't mean like, oh, I'm not a bubbly person like Elle Woods. Like that's not who I am. I'm not either, okay? Like that's not what I mean. When I mean vibrant, I mean like unapologetically you. It feels so free to be able to be yourself. And what that means is being very discerning with what you let into your life. Having strong boundaries, like, okay, whenever I'm with you, I feel like my energy is drained. I don't feel like it's adding to my life. And I feel shitty afterwards. Maybe not your person. Maybe you can limit your interactions with them. Or if you are with someone, you're like, I feel so seen whenever I'm with them. I feel accepted, treasured, valued. I feel so good about myself that I start to think of things that I want to work towards. I feel hope. I feel empowered. Guess what? Spend more time with that person.
Yeah. When you talk about that ripple too, there's also just that in the moment when you're spending time with somebody who does make you feel that way, and you are the version of yourself that lets you feel that way, there is this ease in your relationship. There's an ease in your energy. It is like the more you are connected to you, and I mean just accepting of all that is you without the judgment, the more anyone who is in your presence is allowed to do the same. When you
Yes.
know that you're not judging yourself and you're not judging them, there is a freedom that just comes over both of you where you relax into a new level of relationship.
Mm-hmm. And you start to like emit those same things towards that person, right? Like as soon as you practice more compassion for yourself, you're going to demonstrate compassion for other people. And that translates in your marriage and with your kids, right? When you start to focus on what makes me me, what makes me happy, what am I a yes for, what am I a no for, and you allow yourself to live in that type of alignment, right? Where what you want is also reflected in your choices and your behaviors, you start to care less about things. You put less weight into things that once annoyed you.
Mhm.
Like, let's say your spouse likes to, I don't know, chew with their mouth open. I mean, I really don't like that. But
Me either.
let's say that that's a thing, right? And historically, you've let that piss you off like no other. You have to leave the room or you start getting on them. But like, what if you're so full that you don't even notice?
Yeah.
Or you notice and you're like, yeah, I'll just let him be him.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know,
I think,
I'll just do this other thing. I'll focus on this other thing because that is not really worth it to me. It changes your life experience.
I think too, when you stop judging yourself, you also notice how much you don't judge other people. Like, I
Yes.
used to get so annoyed with my husband, and he was someone who, in conversation, if I asked a question, it would be like one or two word answers. Just always very short, very surface level. And I would get so annoyed. But the story in my head was, he doesn't care about how I'm feeling. He
Mm-hmm.
doesn't care that his responses are irritating me. He doesn't care that he's showing me. He doesn't care, right? Like it was all the stories in my mind where I had to recognize that giving myself compassion also meant that I had to give him a little more compassion and ask different questions, right? Ask more questions, not necessarily probing him, but just in a way that he connected with, because it wasn't that he didn't care and it wasn't that he didn't want to answer. It's that he wasn't really sure what I was looking for example, and he would just give a one word answer because he had to put an answer out there. But me learning to be more compassionate and ask different questions allowed him to hear it differently and learn new language for himself too, right? So like just not judging myself got me to not judge him, and it kind of just brought a little bit more ease and a little bit more relaxation, even in our hardest conversations.
What I'm hearing is that you created more safety,
Yes.
right? He didn't feel safe
Mhm.
with particular answers because it wasn't what you were looking for. And as soon as you stop judging and really just like be open
Yeah.
to actually open and curious
Mhm.
and compassionate with your spouse, you'll notice that they will have more to share. Maybe it will be a little clunky at first because maybe he grew up not really having his voice invited into to the table, right? And it kind of just carried on in your marriage. But he definitely has thoughts. He has opinions. He's got feelings. It's just not tapped in.
Right.
But as soon as the environment feels safe to share, that's where you can deepen your relationship in your marriage,
Yeah.
right? So you have to go first. This is why I always spout, hey, your priorities in your life should be you above everything. You should love yourself most
Mhm.
because it trickles down to everything. And then it's your marriage, and then it's your kids. Obviously, this is not applicable if your marriage is toxic.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
In a world where you're safe physically in your marriage, that should be the pecking order. You, your marriage, and your kids. Your kids are yours for life.
Mhm.
Okay. Obviously, you're going to want a good relationship with them, so you're going to nurture it. but your spouse is not guaranteed to be there. And that really needs to be nurtured. But that comes after you nurture yourself.
Right. And I also think that I know that some people are like, my kids come first. And I get that thought, like you immediately want to protect them. But the fact is that when you nurture your marriage, you also are showing your kids in real time what it means to be loved, what it means to be taken care of, what it means to be open with another human being. Right. So, yeah, I totally agree with that order there.
Yeah. I mean, that order is actually all of it will be a different way of you caring for your child. Mm-hmm. If you care for yourself, you're going to be more resilient. You're going to be all the adjectives that you wish you were all of the time, most of the time, because we're human. And they're going to get this version of you that you want them to get. Mm-hmm. When you nurture your marriage, you're going to demonstrate, oh, this is what healthy conflict looks like. Oh, this is what healthy connection looks like. Oh, this is what healthy partnership looks like. Right. And when you are good with your spouse, that also adds a layer of resilience and joy that you get to share with your kids, mm-hmm. right? Your spouse and your relationship with each other, that is the most significant, impactful relationship that you will ever have. When you're in a fight, that's going to trickle down to create tension in the house. You're going to be cranky and all of that. What if you knew to take care of that and you nurtured it and you just always feel connected? That's not going to be a regular occurrence that your kids are going to experience. So it all can be translated to, oh, that's me caring for my child. It's just not directly, but it has an impact 1,000%.
Absolutely. And it's totally shaping them 100%.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, love it. Okay. I could talk to you forever. Thank you so much for being here. I know you have a freebie that you want to share with the listeners. Can you tell us more about it and how people can connect with you if they're like, I love Evelyn, I need her in my life?
Oh, first of all, I love even hearing that because I love Evelyn too. Finally in life, I so love all of Evelyn. The guide that I want to share is a free guide just discussing what it is that your exhaustion is really trying to tell you. I know that the majority of women that I work with they say I'm tired all the time. It doesn't matter how much I sleep. I'm just tired. And I will tell you that it has very little to do with rest. So the free guide is there. And then Evelyn LaVasseur is my handle on Facebook. And then it's Evelyn LaVasseur on Instagram. And EvelynLaVasseur.com is where you can find me on the web.
Amazing. And we'll put all the links in the show notes. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. I really enjoyed our conversation. Listeners, go check her out. Go give her a follow. Say hi to her. Let her know you found her from the show. And if you know someone that could benefit from listening to this episode, please share this with them. Better yet, tag us in your Instagram story so we can give you a shout out. And if you love this show, I would so appreciate it if you would leave a rating and review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. That's what helps this show grow and helps more people like you find the show and get the help that they need. Okay? That's all I have for you today. Thanks again, Evelyn. I really appreciate you and all the insight that you shared. And I'll catch you all back here on the next episode. Bye.
That's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you did, please send me a message over on Instagram at Michelle Perta Coaching to let me know what you loved most about it. Hearing from my listeners is my absolute favorite. And if you've been loving this podcast, please leave a rating and review. This will help people like you find the show and get the help they need. Catch you here on the next episode. Bye.